Good day, and welcome to this special Wednesdays with the World webinar focusing on Gaza today, perspectives from Palestinian Christian partners. My name is Peter McCary, and I serve in global ministries of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and United Church of Christ as Global Relations Minister for the Middle East and Europe. And today I would like to thank my colleagues Becca Choate and Brooke Canada for their support and work in organizing this webinar. And as Israel's war on Gaza has continued for almost 8 full months, more than 36,000 Palestinians have been killed, more than 80,000 have been injured, and thousands are unaccounted for. Most of the 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza are suffering from starvation. They're desperate for medical care and are displaced from their homes and communities, which have been targeted and destroyed. This month alone, more than 800,000 Palestinians have been displaced from Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip after Israel directed them to leave their homes and communities in other parts of Gaza to go there for safety. Now they have been displaced again and have not found safe haven anywhere. The International Court of Justice has determined that Israel's current military operation in Rafah has caused a catastrophic humanitarian situation. The court issued an immediate halt to military operations there, the opening of the border crossing to allow for unhindered humanitarian relief, and access for United Nations fact-finding bodies to investigate potential violations of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. The statistics are stark, and the numbers of people affected are unimaginable. But they are not numbers. They are people with lives and livelihoods. Our Palestinian partners remind us that the history of crisis in Gaza did not begin on October 7, 2023. It is a history that goes much deeper. 2/3 to 3/4 of the Palestinian people of Gaza are refugees from 1948 and then 1967. They have been forced from their homes numerous times over the past 8 months and for several generations. Gaza has been under Israeli blockade since 2007 and occupation since 1967. Its people have been separated and sealed off from their family and from the broader Palestinian community. In 2015, the United Nations concluded that Gaza could become uninhabitable by 2020, and that has indeed come to pass before our very eyes. The United Church of Christ and Christian Church Disciples of Christ have a long history of partnership and engagement in the Middle East, including among Palestinian Christian churches and organizations. Among those are the Middle East Council of Churches and its Department of Service to Palestinian Refugees, which has been present and serving the Palestinian people since 1949, including in Gaza. We also nurture partnership with Evangelical Lutheran Church in Jordan and the Holy Land, and Kairos, Palestine. Today, we are privileged to have the chance to hear from two of our Palestinian partners who are deeply engaged in offering authentic Christian witness in the midst of the current emergency and have been for much longer. Nader Abu Amsha is a Palestinian Christian from Bethlehem and active member in the civil society in Palestine. He is a graduate of Bethlehem University with a degree in psychology and sociology, and holds a master's degree in international cooperation and development. Nader is an expert in community-based psychosocial support and community empowerment, and was the co-founder and director for the East Jerusalem YMCA Rehabilitation Program, another of our UCC and Disciples partners in Palestine. As of last year, Nader has served as the executive director of the Department of Service to Palestinian Refugees in the Middle East Council of Churches. The Reverend Dr. Nader Ishaq is a Palestinian Christian pastor and theologian. He currently leads the Evangelical Lutheran Christmas Church in Bethlehem and the Lutheran Church in Beit Sahur. He is also the academic dean of Bethlehem Bible College and is the director of the highly acclaimed and influential Christ at the Checkpoint Conference, which has just convened this past week. Nader is passionate about issues related to Palestinian theology and speaks locally and internationally, and has published numerous articles on issues related to the theology of the land, Palestinian Christians and Palestinian theology, holistic mission and reconciliation. He is the author of The Other Side of the Wall, From Lands to Lands, From Eden to the Renewed Earth, an introduction to Palestinian theology in Arabic, a commentary of the Book of Daniel, also in Arabic, and more recently has published a book on women's ordination in the church, also in Arabic. He is also involved in many reconciliation and interfaith forums and is a board member of Kairos Palestine. Munder originally studied civil engineering in Birzeit University in Palestine and then obtained a master in biblical studies from Westminster Theological Seminary and a PhD from the Oxford Center for Mission Studies. He has been a visible and tireless Palestinian Christian voice and advocate during these past several months, interviewed on international media such as MSNBC and the BBC, and has offered deep and challenging theological reflections for the world, including the global church, during this time. We welcome you both and look forward to hearing from you today. For our audience, welcome to you as well. We will have time for questions after Nader and Munther speak, so please put any questions you have in the Q&A box, and please feel free to introduce yourself and where you are from in the chat. So let's start with you, Nader. Would you please tell us about DSPR, its work in Gaza, how it has been affected by the Israeli military assault, and your ongoing work?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for this opportunity, and good evening or good afternoon for everybody everywhere. DSPR is Department of Service to Palestinian Refugees. It's the humanitarian and developmental arm of the Middle East Council of Churches, working in 5 areas. We call it area committees. We work in Lebanon, Jordan, West Bank, and Jerusalem, as well as in Gaza and in Galilee, in Nazareth. So in these 5 areas, it started actually in 1948-49 after a Nakba. We believe in Nakba is continuous. Since then, we're working with the Palestinian refugees. Started as a ecumenical Christian charity to help the refugees with the relief services at the beginning. Later on, it has been registered in these 5 areas and working under the umbrella of the Middle East Council of Churches when it started. Actually, it started earlier than Middle East Council of Churches. Started in 49, but Middle East Council of Churches started in 74, where the churches actually nominate the board members to DSPR. So whoever all of the churches, or the 4 family churches, we call it in Palestine. There is the Greek Orthodox Family Church, there's the Evangelic Church, there's the Catholic Church, and the Eastern Orthodox Church, Family Church. So all of these 4 family churches nominate members to lead and to represent the churches as a board for the DSPR. So we are working on these areas, including Gaza. Our work is mainly in health, community empowerment, economic empowerment, advocacy for the sake of refugees. We are working mainly with the Palestinian refugees and the surrounding area, wherever they are living. In Gaza, let us use the time to highlight our work in Gaza. Before October 7, we kept big operations in Gaza. Started in 54 actually in Gaza, and working in the medical field and primary healthcare services, as well as in vocational training and vocational TVET on technical and vocational training, as well as community empowerment and economic empowerment. So, and mental health and psychosocial support, and including emergency response, responding to emergency and emerging needs of the people, because Gaza, as you know, it's a continuously under threat. I was in Gaza just 1 week before the war erupted, and to be frank, I expected that something would happen because the level of poverty, the level of deprivation, the level of limitations on in front of people. So it's not started in October 7th. It's before that. Gaza has been sieged for 17 years before that, and people are limited have had limited opportunities for all means, as well as having limitations in receiving materials. Everything is checked and censored and all of these things. So what I'm trying to say that in Gaza, we used to have all of these operations. We used to have 103 staff members running four clinics, medical clinics and primary healthcare clinics, running psychosocial program and mental health program, as well as the three vocational training centers. Um, all of these has been frozen after the war when the whole war erupted. So everything has been stopped. Actually, as organization led by Christians and Christian churches in the region, all of the Christians have been moved, or the vast majority of the Christian, 28 Christian members from the Christian community have been refuged to two churches, to Holy Family Catholic Church and to St. Porphyrios Greek Orthodox Church. So, and around 90 and 95 Christians have been living in the south. So altogether, there were a bit less than 1,000. And our leadership, the leading staff and the members of the board from Gaza, they were just in the center, in the churches, and they couldn't run any kind of work there. That's why the central office in Jerusalem, where I'm working there, led the operations and led the emergency response. So far, we are leading this, and we are reorganizing the staff who have been scattered in different areas. As you know, people have been pushed out from the northern area to the southern area. Our premises has been hit. The buildings has been hit. We have two of our clinics have been damaged totally. One of our vocational training centers have been damaged totally, and all other buildings have been hit. And not actually it's moderate damage happened to them. It's so far it's hopefully they are not going to be further damaged. Um, um, since November, we are running a emergency response plan. We started in the churches. We managed to supply the churches with enough food and water in order to store it for a long period, and to care about people there, and to do some kind of arrangements for our teams in the churches to help them stay there and manage their life, as well as to serve the community, the surrounding community, because they can't move further than the surroundings of the churches. So the surrounding, community was benefited also from the services in the churches. But the main operations for emergency was in Rafah. After 1 month of the war, we discovered that there is 34 of our staff are refugee or forcibly displaced to Rafah. Like others, there was a huge need for medical treatment. We used to run a clinic in Rafah before the war, and we reactivated the clinic, and we worked day and night in that place where we used to serve around 400 beneficiaries every day in that clinic. It's a primary health care clinic, We used to run a laboratory, medical lab, as well as a pharmacy and dental clinic, as well as other clinics and other medical services. So we continue to do this kind of work there, in addition to offering different kind of services, mental health and psychosocial support work in other areas in in the surrounding of Rafah, where we used to go, our teams used to go there and offer services for the community, especially for children and women, to help them, release their stresses and reduce the imbalance in their psychological status as they are exposed to all of these kind of atrocities. We offered also health awareness and hygiene awareness and distributed hygiene kits and dignity kits for around 7,000 people. We also offered a non-restricted cash support through a specific wallet. It's called PalPay. It's like PayPal. It's we transfer money through a bank or through this company through a code given in a text to their mobiles, and they can go and cash it from a list of partners to that company. So this used to be our services until 6th of May, when Israelis invaded Rafah and washed away all of the people who have been told to go to that safe area. So we freeze the services in that area. We moved to the central area, where most of the people who are displaced moved to that area, and we started a mobile clinic. And maybe we can show in the screen some of the photos about the mobile clinic and what we are doing there. So these are part of the team. That man with the white dress, he's a professor, Professor Bassam. He used to be a professor in university, and he's leading our medical services. So he's leading personally the operations in the mobile clinic. And he's part of the team, doctors and nurses, and there's many others accompanying them. So we converted this bus to be a pharmacy, actually. And there is some maybe other photos showing the services that we are. This is the crowd where people flee from south of Gaza, from near Rafah to the central area where we are offering these services. So there is, as you can see, this is Dr. Bassam's doing that work, and these are people who are receiving these medications. So now with the growing number of people moving down towards the central area, we are now about to start a new mobile clinic in Khan Yunis and Deir al-Balah to extend our services, because most of the people are deprived of these services, and some of them told us that we used to be served by the churches in the north of Gaza, and now you are following us, and since seven months we are not receiving all of these medications you used to to give us, and now you are doing this again. So the idea is to offer as much as possible services there in Gaza, in the city of Gaza, with the partially reduction in attacks in some areas, with a possible more possibility to move in northern Gaza. We managed to reconstruct part of our damaged building in Shaja'iyya, which used to be in the eye of the storm at the ground invasion in North Gaza. And we managed to renovate this place and use medical clinic. And we are running this medical clinic now there, and we are receiving around 300 people coming to our clinic every day. Now with the invasion to Jabalia, there is more people are pushed down towards the core of the Gaza city, and we are now rebuilding or reconstructing our main office to be another clinic in Gaza. So what I'm trying to do that we keep the flame lighted there. We keep the presence and the witness of the Christian churches in Gaza, although we are ourselves are under a real threat and real attack. Most of our staff have been, all of them actually, have been displaced. We lost 3 of them with their families. They have been killed under the shelling while they are in their homes, and others lost relatives. Most of them, their buildings and properties have been impacted severely or partially. So the idea is to continue our mission, to continue our presence, and to continue this kind of help. I'm not going to talk more because I don't want to exceed the time. Maybe in the questions and we can and answers we can answer some more questions. But this is part of the story. The other part is what does this mean for us as people? What does this mean for us as Christian Palestinians? And what does this mean for the presence of this kind of you know colonial system on our country, in our land, our ethnic cleansing our people and committing genocide. So this is will be left to Reverend Dr. Munder to reflect on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nader, for that comprehensive picture of life in Gaza. It's something that we really don't have that kind of access to through our media, and it's really important for us to seek out those kinds of perspectives. You have direct contact with staff. Please accept our condolences for the staff you have lost and for the staff who have been displaced and have experienced loss in their families as well, as we think about the thousands of Palestinians who have lost life in Gaza up till now. So thank you so much for that perspective. And the question you pose about what this means for Christian presence in Gaza and in Palestine broadly is a good segue indeed to turn to Reverend Dr. Munder Ishaq. We're delighted for you to be on and appreciate your witness in so many places. Could you share something from your perspective as well, Aziz?
So good afternoon, evening, friends, and thank you for joining us in this important webinar. Thank you, Nader, for what you have shared, all the work that you are doing across the hour, trying to make sure the people of Gaza get any possible support they can. And I'll begin by just giving a small comment. Over the last 8 months, as a result of my activism and the line of talks that I used and the way I spoke, I have been described by many as the courageous pastor, and many people thank me for my courage. Let me tell you something. My courage is nothing in comparison to the courage of those people on the ground in Gaza. Those are the real heroes that we should salute and pray for and keep in our prayers, who are going through a genocide yet somehow collect themselves and find ways to continue to support one another and deliver any kind of aid and risking their lives, because we know many in the medical team have lost their lives, were killed in this horrific war. So those are the real heroes. It's been very, very difficult and intense 8 months for all of us, but it's nothing again compared to what's going in Gaza. I was going to say that we're tired from sharing about the reality on the ground. We're tired from looking at one picture after the other. The images from last week and the attack in Rafah were horrifying, horrifying. And I can't imagine that it's been 8 months almost now, and we're sharing the same images, and that things are even getting worse. And if we are feeling this, how much more, million times more, the people in Gaza who've been displaced and displaced and displaced, and nothing seems to be able to stop this madness, this evil genocide that is killing children and women and with no end in sight. It's unbelievable that there is no end in sight, with a total destruction of an entire civilization. And this is the sad reality, that we live in a day in which a genocide has been normalized. Because this is not the kind of a genocide in which we discover the horrors after it takes place. We're witnessing everything. We're still witnessing everything, yet we got used to it. We scroll our phones, you know? We see more images of people, and yes, I just received a text, 50 people died, okay, 50 people were killed. You know, that's it. This has become a normal routine, and I think the world has grown numb. A genocide has been really normalized, and there are no words. There are no words to describe how we feel. And we need to look beyond the events in the last 8 months and ask, what enabled all of this? What enabled the siege of Gaza to be normalized for 16 years? 16 years, a siege in which even the calories that entered Gaza were calculated. I mean, can you think of something more dehumanizing? And this war has emphasized, has really shown that what we're dealing with is a level of racism and coloniality, and all supported with a line of theology that has led to all of this. For years, we lamented the fact that Christian Zionism and theology allowed colonialism to be a reality. Now we're talking about theology that enabled a genocide. And let's be clear, when we talk about coloniality, Israel is an expression of empire today. Israel is part of the world's economical system. Israel is part of the arms trade. Israel, you know, serves the best interest of the United States and other countries because of its significance, contribution, financially, you know, in trade, but also as a weapon. I mean, many have described Israel basically as an extension, but I think Israel in itself is an empire today as a result of its impact and influence around the world. And it's important, friends, it is really, really important to realize and to deal and relate to Israel as a settler colonial entity. I find it hard that people still talk about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. There is no conflict in Palestine. Friends, there is no conflict here. There is a system of colonialism and apartheid, an ethnic cleansing on a daily basis that has been happening for the last 76 years. We need to be clear in how we describe the reality on the ground. And it's a global system. When I talk about a genocide that has been normalized, I want to make sure that you understand, I'm not talking about Israel only. I'm talking about America as complicit directly in this genocide. This is an American genocide because it's American weapons and American money, and America benefits from the existence of Israel in this region. This is an American genocide, in addition to being an Israeli genocide. And again, we fail to do any progress if we don't realize things for what they are, as you know, as I said, not a conflict. And also, this war has established to us that the world does not look at Palestinians as equals, at least the leaders of the world, at least the leaders of the world. The level of racism that is needed to enable such apparent hypocrisies is unbelievable. I mean, it's hard for us to understand when we listen to the White House spokesman or the State Department spokesman still talking that Israel has not committed any war crimes, or that Israel has not crossed any red line, or that they trust Israel will investigate that they just killed 50 innocent Palestinians for no reasons. We trust they will investigate. They don't look at us as equals. We're just numbers and footnotes, and everything has to do with their relationship. So it's hard to be convinced these days that this is not racism at its worst. And this racism manifests itself in, a system of apartheid that has been a reality in this land for years now. And the fact that the world failed to recognize Israel as an apartheid state, and some churches even resisted us when we called them to recognize Israel as an apartheid state, is an indication of the level of racism we're facing here. I came back from South Africa. It was really a learning experience. And I was reminded of the similarities, how the people fighting apartheid were called terrorists, how theology was involved, how the Western world, including Israel and the United States, supported the apartheid regime. And you think that we've learned from history. No, we've learned nothing, because it's the same racism involved. The only difference is that now they exported racism and anti-Semitism to the Middle East, and they blame us for it. This is unthinkable, that we as Palestinians are now called anti-Semitic for resisting our occupiers. And rather than the Western world dealing inwardly with their supremacy, they exported the problem to us, and they exchanged anti-Semitism with the support to another exclusive ideology, which is Zionism. And let's be clear, Zionism and apartheid are the same ideology. And they have the audacity to continue to lecture us, not just on human rights, but to teach us how not to be racist or so on. I mean, come on. We're tired of this complicity of the West, and the fact that now they're trying to make amends. Some countries are recognizing Palestine. I mean, what Palestine are you recognizing as? It's been destroyed. Too late. Are we supposed to say thank you to these countries who are feeling guilty? So it's coloniality, it's racism, and now it's also theology. Theology has enabled this genocide. Let's be clear. Just as theology enabled the settler colonial project of Palestine by telling us that, Jews have a right to the land, God gave it to them. And we have to accept. The rest of the humanity have to accept. They imposed a certain religious beliefs that trumps international laws, and the fact that people have been living here for generations. We just simply have to accept. As Palestinians, God gave the land to the Jews. That's it. And the Bible said so. And if you look at your churches, even the most progressive churches use the lines, Jews return to their land. When you say Jews return to their land, you're implying that a Jew born in the United States or Russia have more right to live in this land and dispossess me as a Palestinian. Because this is ultimately what Zionism is. And for years, theology worked hand in hand, and not just Christian Zionism, friends, not just Christian Zionism. When we talk about Christian Zionism in the American context, people think of John Hagee, right? People think of Christians United for Israel and eschatology and the end times and so on. But friends, let me be very, very clear. Right now, the most harmful Christian Zionist today is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is directly involved in a genocide. Why? He says, I'm a Catholic. He's a devout Catholic. He also says, I am a Zionist. He confesses. He says, I am a Zionist. So we need to understand this kind of Zionism, not just the Zionism of John Hagee and others, but the kind of Zionism that exists even in secular and even in modern, in mainline denominations that just look at Israel as the only democracy in the Middle East, a country like us. I mean, do you know when I hear this first, that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, do you know how insulting it is to us Palestinians who live under Israeli apartheid? And the fact that the world continues to ignore our presence just to call Israel the only democracy in the Middle East. So we need to challenge Christian Zionism for what it is. And in the past, I used to say, you know, if you support Christian Zionism, that means you support apartheid. And now let me add, if you support Christian Zionism, that means you support a genocide. The way churches supported, justified, theologians endorsed, justified this genocide is appalling, I'm writing a book about it. You know, I'm looking at one theologian after the other, one evangelical leader after the other, one church statement after the other. And, you know, history will remember those people who enabled and supported or justified this genocide. So let me talk to friends in this now. And with all that is happening in the world today, in Gaza, the usual responses no longer work. Friends, they don't work. Please, I don't want to hear, let's pray for peace, or let's, you know, we need more courageous, more impactful responses. We need responses that realize this is not a conflict. What is needed right now is not peace and reconciliation. What is needed is holding those who are engaged in settler colonialism and apartheid and a genocide accountable. This is what's needed. We need to hold people and politicians and policymakers and countries who are involved in. And I thank God for the courage of South Africa. I thank God for the courage of South Africa. They understand colonialism, they understand apartheid, and they're leading this because they know exactly it's the same ideology. And when I was in South Africa, I fully understood why Nelson Mandela said, South Africans won't be free until Palestinians are free, because he realized apartheid and Zionism are the same. So please, let's deal with the reality for what it is. Right now, what is needed is not the language of justice, of reconciliation and peace, but it's the language of holding those who commit war crimes accountable, stopping apartheid, dismantling the ideology of apartheid, and most importantly, stopping this genocide and holding people accountable. Friends, we can't reward those who are involved in this genocide. And churches must have the courage, just as they stepped in the times of South Africa to say enough is enough. This is what we need right now. We need to make sure Israel is isolated because of what it's doing to the Palestinians. They're committing war crimes. You even need to hold your politicians accountable for what they're doing. And I'm sorry if I'm aggressive, but such times demand such responses. You've heard from Nader on the ground the horrors that are happening. Friends, we need to be very clear about what's needed. And I'm grateful for the courage of the university students, and some of them for their sacrifices, who are willing to sacrifice their graduation from prestigious universities like Harvard and MIT and others, of course, to say, no, this is a genocide and we will not approve it. This is where the conscience is right now, the conscience of your countries. This is where the moral credibility lies. It lies within those who were colonized, South Africa, Algeria, those experienced apartheid, but now in the streets, in the universities, and in many, many churches, synagogues, and mosques. We need these grassroots movements to hold people accountable and to speak truth to power. This is what's needed right now. And our most important priority is to stop this genocide now. Please do what it takes. Please write, do sit-ins, please protest, please make your voices heard. Engage in creative nonviolent actions in your countries, even if it needs to, you know, boycotting politicians, disturb them, make them feel that you're not happy about this genocide. This is what we're asking from people right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aziz Munder. Those are very challenging words, and I know that that people are eager to hear the perspective directly from Palestine, and at the same time know that there is a great deal of work to do, and we cannot do work as usual, as you called us. There are a few questions in the chat. I just want to start, though, by asking both of you to comment on how all of this has affected life in the West Bank and the impact on Palestinians and Palestinian Christian communities in the West Bank. We know that the violence in the West Bank has continued and has spread. Settler violence against Palestinian communities continues. But share with us maybe just a bit from your experience in the West Bank, how things have been affected during this time. Start maybe with Nader and then come to Munder.
Yeah, West Bank as well is under occupation and under this kind of apartheid system since long time, and since occupied. And the main problem, it's a historical problem, and it's the strategic direction of the work of Israel, is that they are working so hard to create facts on the ground, and these are criminal facts on the ground, to make it impossible to be changed, and paying similar efforts to hide these crimes. So these two strategies work together, and even working more hard to hide these crimes. So this is what's happening. Actually, West Bank is now divided into cantons. If you want to move from an area to another, you cross several checkpoints, and humiliation at the checkpoints is unbelievable. People are waiting and waiting and waiting. And if you are raising your head, you will be punished, and you could be killed easily for any excuse or any reason. Moving in between areas is subject to settlers' violence. Settlers or colonial system in Palestine. Now there is around 800,000 settlers living inside the occupied West Bank, and these people are now represented in the top of the government. They are represented in the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Interior Security is leading the government, actually, and he's leading the settlement. And he is now arming the settlement with further arms to attack villages. They are burning villages. The UN OCHA, the United Nations Office for Coordinating Humanitarian Affairs, is declaring that the average attacks of settlers to villages, like coming to cut trees, to kill people, to burn homes, is 4 attacks, an average of 4 attacks a day. And imagine that these groups of horrible settlers, well armed, supported and guarded by the soldiers, attacking these villagers who have nothing. And if you are retaliating, you will be punished, you will be killed, you will be shot, your home will be burned. So this kind of fear people are living under. We are, really feeling the fear. The arrest and the arresting people. They are talking about hostages in Gaza. They are taking hostage people for hostage in West Bank. Thousands of people have been taken for preventive. They call it preventive imprisonment. So they have no excuse for that. Just they want to put them in prison. So there is lots of hostages from West Bank. Thousands of hostages from West Bank has been put there, and they are living unbelievable hard situation there. Daily torture. They are deprivating from services, 1 meal a day. There is lots of horrible experiences that people are sharing when they get out from prison. There is lots of people died under torture inside the prisons. Economy is frozen. The limitation, there is no tourism, there is no work inside Jerusalem and Israel. They are reducing the amount of money and even blocking the money, and they are kind of pirating the money comes through taxations to the Palestinian Authority. and keep it in the hand of that Smotrich, who's fanatic settler who's leading the Ministry of Finance there, and he is using the money for his own as kind of punishment to Palestinian Authority for different kind of reasons. So life in West Bank is not easy. Like, people are living this kind of limitations, this kind of fear, this kind of direct attacks.
Thank you very much. Aziz, would you want to add to that?
I mean, really nothing to add. Very comprehensive. Thank you, Nader. Just few points quickly. The fragmentation that Nader mentioned, just to give you an idea, all it takes right now for Israel is to close 2 checkpoints around Bethlehem, one to the north, one to the south, and Bethlehem becomes another Gaza Strip, completely isolated from the world. That's all it takes. And last Sunday, I was planning to go to my in-laws in Ramallah, crossing one of those checkpoints after the church service on Sunday. And at the conclusion of the church service, I peeked at my phone. I'm a pastor, I shouldn't do this, so this is between us. And I saw breaking news, Palestinian shot dead at that checkpoint. And I couldn't help but think, my goodness, I'm supposed to cross it in an hour. We canceled, of course, we didn't go. This is the kind of life we live in right now. Really, every block, every canton, as Nader described, could become another Gaza Strip. Nader mentioned the settlers. I mean, the hypocrisy of the West. Again, when Hamas was voted in, terrorists siege Gaza. Israel voted terrorists. The world rewarded them. They give them weapons. It's the power of narrative, friends. Because the Western world decides who's a terrorist and who's not a terrorist. So do we have the courage to call these settlers terrorists? Or only Hamas is terrorist? Only Palestinians qualify as terrorists, but Israelis, no, it's a democracy. They don't engage in terror. And it's not the terrorists, by the way. It's the system that protects them. Let's be clear. It's not the individuals who commit these attacks, as we heard. It's the system that protects them. And yes, 6,000 at least people were kidnapped. Let's use these terms. Kidnapped since October 7th. Does anybody talk about them, including children? But if Israel frames them as terrorists, that's fine. You see? And I hope all people who were kidnapped are freed, including the Israelis. Let's pray for that. We don't want anybody kidnapped. I hope you understand. But the hypocrisy, how some people are kidnapped, you commit genocide to save them. Others are kidnapped. Nothing. It's a democracy. They have every right to do it.
You're pointing to the double standard that has existed for a long time. Munder, you have spoken in challenging ways to us as an audience to hold our politicians accountable, to demand change, and to engage our political systems. One of the questions in the chat is about the U.S. elections. The fact that we are in an election year, there will be an election in November, and you've named the ways that the current administration has been complicit. There's also deep concern about other candidates. So I'm wondering what advice you might offer a U.S. audience about how to engage politically, particularly in an election year.
Yeah, when your two candidates are Biden and Trump, all I can offer is my prayers for you and for the rest of the world, to be honest. Is this the kind of leadership we're looking for right now? Are they leading, really? And I understand, I've heard so many times that, and I don't want to tell Americans how to vote and whom to vote for, but sadly, one of the things right now, which I hope changes, is Palestine a voting issue, or is it not? Or is voices that are concerned about Palestine always taken for granted and never taken seriously or making an impact? I think it's time to change this. I think it's time those people who support justice and humanity and the end of the settler colonialism of Palestine and creating a stable peace between Palestinians and Israelis in this land, have leverage. But I don't think right now Biden or Trump is taking these voices seriously. I cannot for a moment buy anything Biden says, whether he's concerned about Palestinian innocent lives or anything. Facts are facts. He continues to provide Israel with the weapons they need to commit this genocide with no strings attached. So facts are facts. Don't tell me it's one as if it's a support to Zionism, support to settler colonialism is a bipartisan issue. And I think both those who are concerned for Palestine and humanity on both sides should be concerned about this and try to change it on both sides and not on one, not as if only Republicans or Democrats will help us. Friends, we've had Obama for 8 years. What did he do? Nothing. Nothing. And in his last days, he signed the $300 billion deal that made sure Israel has the weapons it needs to continue to colonize Palestine. So let's not fool ourselves as if one party is better than the other. It's much deeper than that, and work needs to happen.
Thank you very much. There are a couple questions in the chat, in the Q&A about Hamas, and I'm wondering if you would be willing to address those. One is, we often hear that Hamas is evil without naming countless peace proposals. How do you both respond when people frame this as a fight between good and evil? And the other question is, from a Palestinian Christian perspective, what is the best solution for the people in Gaza regarding Hamas?
Yeah, please go ahead.
It's complicated questions, I know, and if you would be willing to speak to the question in however you would like, I'm sure there would be great appreciation for that.
Yeah, for us, actually, Hamas is one of the is part of the Palestinian resistance to the Israeli colonial system and occupation in this in our country. So Hamas, maybe we are not definitely we are not. Yeah, me personally, I'm not a fan of somebody like Hamas. I'm against any kind of extremism, regardless whoever. But directing everything towards Hamas and kind of putting the whole picture as if Hamas is targeting Israel. This is the problem. We are changing the equation to fit into the narrative of the occupation and the narrative of the Zionist movement. Actually, Hamas is part of the resistance. Hamas wasn't there in 1987. Hamas started, but the occupation was behind that. Before that, the occupation and the apartheid system started long time ago. The ethnic cleansing of Palestinians started long time, and it's continuous. Hamas wasn't there in 87. Hamas created. And there is lots of rumors and stories about how Hamas started and how Israel is even permitted this kind of legal entity to be. It used to be not a preventive political party existing, but it has been developed to be part of the resistance. And this is what's happening. And actually, they were targeting, separating, or creating a split within the Palestinian Authority, and by enlarging this kind of religious approach within the Palestinian resistance. But it turns to be part of the resistance, and it's part of the Palestinian resistance. Not everything you accept in others' behavior, but we believe that. Whether Hamas or whoever resisting the occupation, it's our right by international law. We are against violence as Christians and a Christian organization. We are calling for non-violence as a solution. Following the international legitimacy is the solution, but it's the right of all people who are under occupation to resist by all means, including the armed resistance. And this is how we perceive Hamas. We perceive it as not as an evil, not as a we can see this as part of the resistance, not necessarily accepting all what they are doing and what they are believing in, and how they are performing.
Yeah, tricky question. Peter, it depends on what's the standard you're using to judge. What's your ethical standard? Who decides who's evil and not evil? Who decides who's a terrorist and not terrorist? Let me tell you my ethical standard. It's that of Jesus. So killing is wrong. Killing children is wrong. Kidnapping children is wrong. Killing people in their home is wrong. Or evil, if you want to use those words. Our problem is that the West has created a standard in which they judge people that only suits them. So if someone kills children and he's with a beard and with an Islamic ideology, he's a terrorist. But if someone with a suit and speaks perfect English and bombs refugee camps and kill 50 people, burns them alive, it's a democracy. See, this is our problem. Is what Israel is committing a genocide that killed 35,000 people? Is this evil? Is this terrorism? Is there state terrorism? Or is terrorism only confined to Islamic radical groups? Who decides? This is our problem as Palestinians, with why we get angry whenever we get asked this question. If the whole world is outraged by the kidnapping of children on October 7th, where were you when Palestinian children were kidnapped on a daily basis in the West Bank? Where were you? Do you even have the right to speak up about the kidnapping of, if you were silent about the kidnapping of Palestinian children? When it comes to Hamas's ideology, Palestinian Christians have made it clear in the Kairos Palestine document they are against religious state. We don't want a religious state. This is our biggest disagreement with Hamas, in addition to the fact that we choose nonviolent creative resistance. When it comes to the religious state and the fact that we are opposed to it, again, this is where the hypocrisy of the world is manifest for all to see. Israel defines itself as a Jewish state. Why hasn't anybody been outraged? But only when, Islamic countries, they use Islam as the religion and so on, everybody, oh, it's a religious state, it's fundamentalism. Well, Israel is the religious state. Israel defines itself as, where were you? Why are you silent? The double standard, I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. Do you even see it? Do you even recognize it? And how do you, do you want to get rid of Hamas? Get rid of the occupation. Treat Palestinians with dignity. Give us our rights, our God-given rights based on international law, and this is it. Have people tried this? And don't tell me Hamas, Gaza, there was no occupation in Gaza. No, there was occupation in Gaza. I heard Hillary Clinton who says there was ceasefire on October 6th. I mean, are you serious, Hillary? I mean, who is she fooling? I mean, does she believe this lie? Doesn't she know about the sea? Of course she knows about the sea. She was there. She helped implement it. Doesn't she know that, it's still occupied, that there is occupation in the West Bank? We're one country. They don't recognize this. So try giving Palestinians their right. Have anybody tried this? Unfortunately, for 76 years, nobody won even this.
Thank you. We just have time for one more question, and there are still several in the chat, so we may collect them, and if you're willing to respond to them, we can share them with you. But the final question is also a comment. One of our audience members says your frustration and fatigue is obvious and warranted, but notices that, Nader, you have a sign behind you that says hope is the only thing stronger than fear. Where do you find hope in these horrific days? And I wanted to ask both of you to answer that.
For me, hope in first in right can't be wrong. Hope that we are in the right direction. Hope that we are supporting the right people in the equation. We can see the hope in the millions of people in the streets in Europe, in Latin America, in Asia, and everywhere, who are standing for values, for universal values, for Christian principles. We see hope in the even with this kind of half good resolutions done by International Court of Justice, but we can see hope there. We see hope when we hear that International Criminal Court is declaring Netanyahu and his Minister of Defense as criminals and should be taken to prison. So we see hope for this kind of potential change toward positive. We hope in the words of Jesus that he wants us to live life and to live it abundantly. He don't want us to continue living this kind of misery. This is our hope. We are bringing our hope from the ability of our people to continue living on this land, to continue this kind of resistance to the illegal military colonial system and trying to uprooting us. We see hope in some enlightened Jews. We see hope in the movement among the Jewish people who believe in the right thing. We believe in justice, who believe in dealing with Jews as normal human beings. And this is, I believe, the only solution for good. Yeah, the only solution for our cause. They are not they are not able to uproot us. We are not able to uproot them. We don't want to uproot anybody, and we want to live together. And this is the only solution. It's the end of the Zionist movement, the end of Zionist approach towards living here. So we lived together, Muslim, Christian, Jews, before the colonial system started, and we can live. And South Africa is a good model. It shows that this kind of apartheid system could be ended, and when everybody is living as a normal human being with equal rights, with one man, one vote for everybody. So this is our hope for future, that it can't. We strongly believe in these universal values. We strongly believe in Christian principles that God won't leave us continue living this life. It's not just he's promising good life after death, but he's promising a good life before death as well.
Thank you, Nader. That's profound, and that's a quite extensive list of areas and people and faith in which you feel hope. Assis Munder?
So I'm gonna exchange roles with Nader because I felt Nader was preaching, and he should, he spoke very powerfully about signs of hope that are very true. Every point he said, and it's important that we fight for this hope. And I say we fight for this hope because right now it feels hopeless. So in an ironic way, I'm going to be the one who doesn't see hope much, despite everything that Nader mentioned, because the war is still happening. And the hope I see is actually the survival of Palestinians, their resilience, and our sumud. Hope has become to us is to survive one more day and hope to figure out a way to get out of this mess we are in, this seemingly unending storm we are in. And we're caught in the middle where we can't see the end of the tunnel, to be honest, at all. We hear about all these things. We see them. Nader, you're absolutely right. But they still can't make a real difference on the ground. And maybe God works in mysterious ways through these movements in the streets, through these strong voices that are developing among Judaism that are saying no to Zionism, among even churches and so on. But right now, to me, hope is to survive one more day that we don't lose everything and that we don't lose our faith until this evil storm is over.
Well, this has been a difficult message to hear, difficult to hear the reality on the ground that you have conveyed to us, Nader, based on the work and witness of Department of Service for Palestinian Refugee staff and the community in which it serves, and a challenge to us, Mundir, to hear what is required of us as part of the global church. We are deeply thankful for both of you and for your continued witness. We are honored to be in partnership with you and to walk in accompaniment and solidarity with you, and we commit to continue to doing that. I want to thank our audience today for joining and listening to this webinar, and want to invite the audience to click on the link in the chat that is the UCC and Disciples Response page, which lists and indexes the numerous statements of public witness and prayers and expressions of support and solidarity, but also to use the action alerts that are on that page to advocate with our elected officials, and to support the work of our partners through the appeals that are listed also on the bottom of that page. So please continue to be engaged. Please hear the challenges we have heard today and help support the work and the witness of our partners in the region. Again, thank you, Nader, and thank you, Mundir, for your tireless work. We hold you in prayer. And we also walk alongside you in accompaniment and solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.